Hi, if you've just joined, if you could let me know where you are in the chat box, please, before we start, that would be lovely. And we'll just give people a chance quickly to join. I'm not going to wait for everyone because obviously a lot of people are watching on catch up. So we'll just give people a minute to, if you could just tell me where you are in the chat box, that would be great. In my earlier session, I could not believe how many people were from all corners of the world. This is amazing how the language show is attracting so many different people in so many different countries. I think earlier I had someone in New York, someone in Estonia, absolutely everywhere. So please let me know in the chat box whereabouts you are. Yes, Olivier, I can imagine. Whereabouts are you in Belgium, Olivier? And for anyone else who's just joined, let me know whereabouts you are, please. Oh, you're in Brussels, okay. I know Antwerp very well. My brother-in-law lives there. So we actually cycled to Belgium, to Antwerp from Rotterdam a couple of weeks ago. Hello, Clarice from East Sussex. The Butterfly School from Italy. Whereabouts are you in Italy? Hello, Walsall, a bit nearer. Oh, lovely. The Aosta. What's the nearest ski resort to that area? I know some of the ski resorts in Italy. I'm a keen skier. Whereabouts in the Alps are you exactly? For your information, I'm up in Huddersfield in West Yorkshire. Very miserable and dreary day up here. I hope you're having better weather than me. So I'm going to kick off. There's only about 10% of people here at the moment that have registered, but I get that I think a lot of people are watching these probably at a later stage, so I don't want to delay it any longer. So thank you for joining this live session. A little bit about me before I start. So my name is Juliet Park. I'm a Director of Languages for a trust in Yorkshire, but I'm 0.8, which means part of my week involves various work with as a consultant. So I work for AQA as a trainer. I've been working with them on the new GCSE, and we have been trialling the new exam. You may have been on my earlier session as well, which was about formative assessment, because I work with the SSAT and Dylan William. And so if you didn't see that and that's of interest, please go and have a look later. But this session now is about business languages. Now, like many of you, I imagine my background is in industry. So before I came into teaching, I went into international sales and marketing, and I spent several years traveling a lot, using my languages. And so I believe that business languages is a great way to motivate students, but also skill them up and give them a purposeful and meaningful course that hopefully will motivate them to enjoy language learning, because I think that's part of the problem at the moment with the curriculum. So a little bit of background. I've been working on MVQs, which are qualifications that are typically used by students, particularly younger students, who can't quite access the GCSE. However, several years ago, I decided I wanted to set up a rigorous qualification that would suit post-16 learners and really help them skill up and prepare to use languages in the world of business. So I set this up several years ago with the Institute of Linguists, and then a couple of years ago they said, look, we're really sorry, but we're quite a small organisation focusing on interpreting and translating. We don't really have a lot of time to keep running this with you. So I then took it to another awarding body called the Skills and Education Group. And where we are now is that I run a professional level 2 accreditation in business languages, which has been quality assured by the Skills and Education Group. But equally now, we've just launched a level 3, which has UCAS points, I'm pleased to say. And so I'm going to talk you through both levels, both pathways, and then let you listen, hopefully the sound will work, to a teacher who is delivering it and has now gone on to level 3. So the level 2 and 3 are ideal for post-16 students. Ideally, they've done GCSE or something equivalent before they start the course. It's typically run alongside A-levels. So it isn't a replacement for A-level, but it can be an addition to A-level. And it suits students who either are doing an A-level in a language or have decided they want to carry on with language learning, but didn't want to do an A-level, didn't want to be looking at film, literature, etc. So it suits both, and we do typically have students who are either doing A-level in languages or not. It also has been picked up by universities, so it's often done as a kind of part of an applied language course or as an additional form of study on top of one's main degree. And we've also had professionals in the workplace actually taking this course. So we're going to start with level 2. It involves 6 modules, and at the end of every module, the students do a task. They can use the notes while they're doing the task, because the idea is we're simulating what it will be like to be in the workplace. The language level, based on the Common European Framework of Languages, is A2 level, to give you a feel for the level. And it is typically taught from autumn to May. Now, some schools start it early on in September, some start it about now and then fast track through it. And typically it's taught 1 to 2 hours per week. So we recommend the level 2 is actually a taught course delivered by a teacher. If you've got 2 hours a week, great, but it is doable on 1 hour a week. Now, the course content you can see here has been broken up into 6 sections. So the first section, students learn how companies are formed, the kind of departments that are typical in a company, such as marketing, sales, finance, production, etc. And students learn about the type of jobs people do in those departments and the type of skills and attributes that you need for certain positions, such as, you know, being analytical if you are, for example, an accountant, or if you're in sales, business development, you need to be fairly communicative and confident as a person. So we look at the skills and attributes. Number 2 is to do with liaising with companies. So that looks at things like online interviews, Zoom interviews, which are often the case now, especially if you're applying for a job abroad. We look at writing letters, emails, contracts, etc. Number 3 is based on rules and regulations. So this is health and safety in the workplace, and we look at both the factory environment and also in an office. Number 4 is travelling and listening to announcements, booking accommodation, basically getting around and about, being able to understand directions, etc. Number 5 is a really nice, juicy, meaty module, because students pick something of interest and they deliver a presentation. And then number 6 is about dealing with problems. So we look at different scenarios, things that can go wrong with orders, etc. So I mentioned at the end of each of those modules, we have an assessment. Now, module, or rather level 2, is almost like students imagine they are applying for a job as an intern, and that they're going through the procedures of taking on a placement, and when they get there, what kind of things do they have to deal with. So the first module involves writing a job application. The second one involves reading an email and responding to it. So that's reading and writing. The third one is instructions and procedures. So that's a reading. The fourth is obviously a listening. The fifth one is a speaking, sales presentation. And number 6 is actually a dialogue. So speaking with your teacher, dealing with various problems. So you can see how we've got 6 modules. And at the end of each module, there is either a single skill test or a dual skill. So reading, writing, speaking, listening, and then a combined reading and writing and a combined speaking and listening. Now, for level 2, students have 2 options. They can either just do those end of module assessments and then finish at that point in May, and they can receive, providing they've done the assessments, a course certificate, okay? So they can just get a course completion certificate. However, if they want to go for the professional accreditation, then what they need to do is continue, and at the end of May, there are 2 unseen final assessments. So if they go for the full accreditation, 40% of their marks comes from those end of module tests, and 60% comes from 2 unseen final assessments. Now, the unseen assessments, or rather, if they do the full accreditation, the combination of their marks leads to either a pass, merit, or distinction in the accreditation. So the accreditation is actually graded. So let's have a look now at what those unseen assessments look like. So I mentioned there are 2. They're typically, they take place the week before the half term at the end of May. And this is what they would look like. So I'll let you just quickly read the information. So I'm not talking over you reading. I'll give you a second. So we combine speaking and listening. Students are given a brief, and they're also asked to listen to a message which plays 5 times. While they're listening, they're making notes, they're writing down the key points that are in that message, and then what they have to do is add some further details. They are then expected to record a message. So the final assessment is not a dialogue, it's simply you listen, note down, add the details, and then they're recorded giving a message back. Okay, so that was the example that was used this summer for the speaking and listening. Now let's have a look at a reading and writing. Oh, sorry, this is also another speaking and listening, and this one was from the year before. I'm going to play this. Could you let me know, please, in the chat if the sound is coming through? Because I don't know if I was expected to click something. Let's have a listen. I'll just start playing it. Let me know if you can hear it, please.
Hola, soy Ana al teléfono. ¿Podría ponerse en contacto con el Hotel Blanco en relación con el evento previsto para el 12 de julio? Necesitamos revisar los planes porque ha habido algunos cambios. Explíqueles que hay que cambiar la fecha al 16 de julio si hay disponibilidad.
Okay, so I'll pause it there so you can see that the student has to imagine they're doing a marketing internship for a digital media company, and that they have received a message from the boss that there has been some changes, and at that point in time we based it around COVID and the problems that arose in terms of travel, and so the student had to pretend to ring up the hotel where the conference was being based, tell them that they needed to make some changes, and you can see there add some further details. So that was A2 level. It starts off pretty slow and then it builds up a little bit. So that just gives you a flavour for what the speaking and listening is like. So let's move on. Now we're looking at reading and writing. Again, I'll give you a minute just to digest the information on the screen. So again, a kind of placement internship scenario in the French Alps. The idea being that they have to imagine they're working for a biking company, a rental shop, and that they're having to deal with messages and also online orders. And then there is an extra bit that they have to do. This would be the German example of the same task. So I'll let you have a quick look at that if you're a German speaker. So if your students have done GCSE, it's important to recognise that even though this is also level 2, it's very different. The contexts are very different. The vocabulary is very different. So it wouldn't bore students if they've got the level GCSE. Ideally, they would have that already. Now, the resources do go through in depth the grammar again. So there is a good grounding of grammar covered, even though they may have covered all of that at GCSE. We want to revisit it and we want to make sure they've got a solid grounding. So that's kind of in a nutshell level 2. All the resources sit online and you would not have to write anything for this qualification. Now, I just want to talk to you about the level 3 because this is brand new. We launched it over the summer and this is something I've been trying to plan for a number of years now. There are many schools around the country that desperately want to offer something that is an enrichment course that may, for example, run a little bit like the EPQ if you run the extended project qualification, and equally if your A-level numbers are not brilliant, this can also be something that can help you boost language learners in sixth form. Now that we've got the level 3 and it's got UCAS points, we're starting to get a lot more interest. So I'm going to talk to you about how the level 3 works, how it's different to the level 2, and how I need you to imagine that level 2 is almost like the grounding. So it's almost like the same course, but they've got different option points. So the level 3 is like a bolt-on additional project that you would do at the end of level 2. So it would start ideally in the summer, but could start later. Now we've gone up to B1. Okay, so we've gone up from A2 to B1. In this project module, there are 14 assessments. Typically, it would be from June to November, but we've got teachers and students doing it at different points in time. For example, somebody rang me last week and said, I'm going on maternity. Can we pick up level 3 from January of next year with our current level 2 students? Of course, because there is no final unseen assessment in level 3. It could be started and finished at any point in time. Now, we reckon around 20 hours it would take to do the level 3. It does lead to 16 UCAS points and it is on the UCAS register. And this is obviously something you need to bear in mind if you were going to deliver this, because you want obviously students to make sure they get the points and that they finish the course, they've submitted the portfolio in time to get those points if they are applying to go to a British university. Just to mention, if you are based abroad, we can also offer this qualification to you. We've had quite a bit of interest, for example, from teachers in Switzerland who are looking at delivering it. So through our centre, we can give you access to these qualifications. So the way we've designed level 3 is almost to sort of get the students now to become very imaginative and very creative and to start taking initiative, because these are key skills that business, that industry needs in this day and age. So once they've done level 2, the idea then is for them to pick a business idea that they want to build their project tasks and assessments round. Now, interestingly, I ran this with some university undergraduates in May. And I said to them, can you think of something that would make your life or people in your life, if it could make their lives easier? Can you provide something that is almost a solution to a problem? The ideas they came out with were absolutely amazing. And I think this is what's good about level 3 is they can really get their creative entrepreneurial juices flowing. So the idea is, as an overview, they plan a business idea. So they need to think of a product or a service that obviously they're not going to go and do it for real, although some may, but they plan an idea in their heads. Now, if you are in the UK, you might know Dragon's Den. It does exist in other countries. So what we suggest to teachers is try to set it up a bit like pitching an idea to a group of people, whether it's other students or the teachers, etc. So they're obviously learning communication and presentation skills. Then they work around marketing planning. So they start to understand what marketing and what planning is like. Incidentally, you do not need a business qualification to deliver this, and nor do we go into heavy detail about things like the financial aspects. We're not looking at profit and loss. We're not looking at balance sheets. It is more to do with producing an idea and thinking about how you would get it to market and what planning you would put in place. So it's very doable no matter what your background is. Then they plan where they're going to sell this. Where are you going to market it abroad? How are you going to get there? What costs are involved in setting up hotel costs? What itinerary will you put together, etc. So it's really good from a geographical, cultural point of view, because students can really start to put their sort of planning and organisation into practice. And then finally, they do a proper or pretend sales presentation as though they've gone out to that country. So that's level 3 in a nutshell. Now, what I want to explain is how the level 3 works slightly differently to level 2. Now, level 2, there's a lot of teaching and learning, and then students do an assessment at the end of the course, at the end of each module, and they can use the notes, and then they move on to the next section. Now, level 3, a lot of it can be done independently. They do not have to actually be in the presence of a teacher, but a bit like the EPQ, if you deliver it or you're aware of it, ideally you would be mentoring them and advising them and checking their progress as they're going along. So I'm going to explain how these 14 tasks work. So the first one is a reading. Students read an advert from an investment company and they answer questions. And then reading 2, assessment 2, is they look at how you would prepare a business plan. Number 3 is another reading. It actually looks at an example of a business plan from a company. Number 4 then is students write their own plan. So number 4 is the productive task. Now, there's a little bit of learning between each task, but what's important to recognise is the assessments have been designed so that students can reflect back on previous assessments to help them produce their own. So the assessments are very close, kind of carefully scaffolded and interlinked. Number 5 then is they listen to an overview of a business. And then number 6, they listen to somebody pitching an idea. And then number 7, they do their own sales pitch. And of course, again, they look back at number 5 and 6 for ideas. Number 8 is they understand how marketing plans are put together. Number 9 is looking at an example of a marketing plan. We use Decathlon, the sports company. We looked at their marketing mix, and that forms the assessment. So students look at a plan and then put together their own. Number 10 then is they look at examples of sales itineraries, business trips, and then they produce their own report and summarise the costs. Number 12, they listen to effective sales tips. Number 13, they watch an example of a sales presentation. And then the final one, they deliver their own. So that is, in a nutshell, number 3. All of this can be mostly done independently, although the teacher and the student does have to sign a declaration form. But the speaking obviously would be done in the presence of a teacher because it needs to be recorded. And also the listening assessments have to be done. Numbers 5 and 6 and 7 and 12, I think it's 6 out of the 14, need to be done in the presence of a teacher. So 8 can be done remotely. The speaking can be prepared remotely, but the speaking needs to be recorded in the presence of a teacher, and the listenings have to be done in the presence of a teacher. Now, I want to point out at this point, if students don't get everything right, they are allowed to revisit the assessment so they can have another go. And it is the job of the teacher to guide them and advise them, but obviously not tell them what the answer is. So they can go back. The level 3 isn't graded either. It's pass or it isn't. It is 16 UCAS points, and it's either it's a pass or it isn't. So there is no grading, and they can go back to an assessment and have another attempt. What you've got on the slide here is an example of a listening. You can see the kind of dialogue, and students have to listen to the details of the product. Which is the target market? Who is the target client? What are the details of the companies? What does this person have skills-wise? So this gives you an idea of what kind of one of the assessments is like. And as I say, they're using previous assessments to help plan their own productive speaking or writing, for example. This is an example of a business trip. So you can see students are planning, they're writing a report, they're working out the cost. What's good about this is they're looking at different places in the world where the target language is spoken. They're looking at how you get there, the length of time. They're looking at how to book a conference suite or a meeting room. And they're also working using currency converters. So they're looking at different currencies. So there's quite a lot of learning happening. Now we've got various video clips. For example, this is assessment 13, where they actually watch different people. And we've also used a range of different industries and company types as the students work through their assessment. So we've got the food industry, we've got social media, we've got an app company, we've got a restaurant, we've got sports, clothing. So we try to cover a range of different industries just to keep that kind of interest level up and informing students of all the different ways that language could be applied to industry. Now, all the resources sit on our portal. As you can see here, we have got different tabs, and what you've got is level 2 and level 3. And then on the right, you can see how the scheme of work is designed. So when teachers log in, they just click the blue hyperlinks and it takes them straight to the resource. In terms of past papers, because this has been running a number of years now, all the past papers can be used for revision. But another point I need to make is when the students have done those end of module assessments, they are marked by the teacher. Now, to save time, what we've done is put all of this online. So it basically calculates and makes the whole process faster. And what we're going to have a look at now is how that works. So we do obviously have speaking, listening and reading and writing criteria. You can see here how you've got vocabulary and grammar, accuracy and completeness. Obviously, this is for the reading and the writing. And you can see we've got it on 4 bands. So it goes from 1 to 3 up to 10 to 12. 10 to 12 would obviously be your distinction level. But students need to be at least getting into the sometimes, mostly or consistently bands to pass. It's very rare for students not to get through level 2, very rare. And of course, if you have some students who are incredibly weak, they can just get the course certificate. So that's the reading and the writing. The speaking and the listening is, again, vocabulary and grammar, fluency and pronunciation instead of accuracy, and completeness. The completeness is just referring to, has the student properly read the task brief and have they included everything they needed to? So at one point, teachers had to have this in front of them and basically grade the students' work as they were reading through the work or listening to it. But actually now what we've done is put it online. So you can see that you just tick, for example, the things that were in the task brief. In terms of things like vocabulary and grammar and accuracy, you just use the slide bars and mark out of 4. And then the system totals the score up and it will tell you whether it's pass, merit or distinction. Now, for students who do the final unseen assessments, this is actually marked by very experienced examiners who work for the big awarding bodies, and they said they love this system. They said it's so clear and quick and easy to use. Now, what I'm going to do is let you listen to a teacher who's been delivering this year. She's got some students who've gone on to level 3. She used to be a corporate lawyer, and she has moved out of London and she's come into teaching, and she teaches in the Lake District. So I'm going to play this video. I hope to goodness we can hear it. If you can't, just let me know. And if you can, please let me know in the chat box. Here we go.
It's going really well so far.
Start it again.
We have a group of students doing the level 2 course, and then we also have a group of students doing the level 3 course as well, both in Spanish and French at level 3.
Do you think the level 2 is a necessity before level 3?
I think level 2 is the sort of building block for level 3. I think the level 3 students have sort of used what they've learned in level 2, sort of help them with some of the skills that are required in level 3. sort of approach that's required in level 3 as well. So yeah, I'd say level 2 is sort of the basis or the building block really for level 3.
And in terms of students that are doing it, is it a mix of those doing A-level and those who didn't want to do A-level?
We do. So in level 3, we have a mixture. It's roughly 50-50 between students who are currently doing A-level and those who did GCSE and decided they just want to sort of keep up their languages. And our level 2 course, I think it is all students who did GCSE but aren't currently doing A-level. So yeah, we do have a mixture of the two.
Are they all coping okay, even though there'll be a difference in sort of maybe knowledge, experience, ability?
Yeah, I think they have. I think as well, because I think with level 2, it sort of builds from the beginning. So it starts off with quite a lot of practice of the tenses and work that they did in GCSE, sort of a recap of a lot of the stuff they've learned before. So it sort of eases them in that respect. And then again, as I said, they sort of build on that through level 2 and into level 3.
And how are they finding sort of coming up with a business idea?
I think that's been quite nice. I think it's been something different for them. Some of them have done business. So, you know, they've been able to use maybe something they've learned there to help them. But I think, yeah, it's just something so different to GCSE and what they've done before.
Would you have done it yourself, you say, at school?
Yeah, I would have loved this. I would have been really, so I went on to do law, went on to do corporate law. And I think for me, yeah, it would have been something that would have really appealed to me. Just to like use my languages in a sort of corporate way or in a business way, you know, and bridge the gap sort of between languages and the business world. And yeah, I would have been really, really interested. It would have been very helpful for me, I think, to have done something like this.
Okay, so that gives you an idea. That's Alison, based up at Dalham School in Cumbria. I spoke to another lady last week who is delivering this at a state school in Macclesfield, and she was saying their numbers have doubled since last year because students are starting to get to hear about it. But what's interesting is the level of interest from parents as well. So quite a lot of the schools we've already been delivering with this qualification are private schools. And of course, they want to add value. So there is always a definite interest for this type of qualification. In fact, some of the schools asked if they could go on our marketing flyers because they want to get the message out to parents that, look, we are delivering this. So I think because it's now got the level 3's got UCAS points, it's easier to convince senior leaders that this might be something to put onto your curriculum. Something else I kind of want to finish off with as well is that the level 3 could potentially be done abroad. So because it's so flexible, because there's no end of point sort of getting the portfolios in, there's no final assessment date, it could be done in the summer. And so we work with 2 schools abroad, one in Morzine in the French Alps, who are going to be offering this as a 2-week residential. So if you have students, for example, that do the Duke of Edinburgh and want to, for their gold or their silver, do a residential abroad, or even use it as that additional skill, then this might be something to consider. Certainly it would have to be funded by parents. So that's in the French Alps. We have worked with this company for a few years now. Those students on the left are actually my year 10 students because we use funding for work experience trips as well, Erasmus funding and more recently Turing funding. So we have worked with this company and done kind of a work context type program with them before. And then the other one I want to show you is Thador in Alicante. We've worked with this company now for 10, 12 years, and they've already put together quite a detailed flyer, a program on how this would work, and they're looking at offering it in July. So this might be something that you want to consider if you don't want to be delivering it in the summer term or the autumn, or indeed at any other point in the year. Again, those students on the left are mine. That's when I worked at a school in Leeds. And they are actually signing the contracts ready to go and work in a business. But Alicante, if you don't know it and you're a Spanish teacher, is an absolutely brilliant place to be based for students on residential programs. We would also like to find a German partner to work with. We are in discussion with a couple of schools, but if you know of anywhere in Germany, it would be really nice to touch base with them to see if they could offer a program of this nature. So what I'm going to do now is just put up some details here, because I'm sure you'll be wondering, well, how much does this cost? What do I need to do next? So to set a centre up, you would have to be registered with us. Okay, so to set a school, or you could be a private business, language business. The setup originally initially is £199, and then annually it's £99, and so you access all the up-to-date resources. That is for both the level 2 and 3, so there isn't an additional charge if you want the level 3 as well. The level 2 certificate or accreditation, the actual qualification certificate for level 2 is £79. When we ran that with the Institute of Linguists, it was around about £95. So it's nearly £20 cheaper than it used to be. And the level 3 certificate is £85. Now, I do get sometimes questions asked from teachers, well, could we just do the level 3? Yes, you could just enter them for level 3, but really you do need to be teaching them level 2, as Alison said in that video, to build them up and make sure they've got the skills to deal with that. Okay, so the school set up £199, then it's annually £99. We make sure that you're completely set up, that all your teachers have access through passwords and usernames, and then the qualifications are £79 for level 2. That's both the certificate or the accreditation, and level 3 is £85. Remember, the teachers mark the assessments for level 2 and 3, but our team are the people who mark the final unseen accreditation assessments, and also they verify your level 3 assessments as well. Remember, the level 3 is not graded, okay, but everyone will get, if you get through it, 16 UCAS points. So what we've got on the screen here are my contact details if you wish to get in contact with me. I did this webinar a couple of weeks ago. You'll be able to access it obviously on here, but there is one on the Languages for Business portal as well. That's our website, that's my email address. And if you want to register for more information and receive a PDF of this presentation and a flyer that you might want to use in schools, please use the QR code, and then we can send out to you automatically some links to access any information you might want further. It can be used for ISA too. Ella, can you just tell me, you just reminded me of something actually. It can be used, I believe, as part of the International Baccalaureate. And somebody's asked me that question in the past. I think they actually might be using this qualification as part of the language aspect. Hallie, can you tell us what the ISA is, please, so that people are aware? Because not everybody is based in the same country. It might be something that people need to understand. The international schools as well. Thank you, Hallie. Great. Okay, so I'll stay on for about a minute. I'll leave this screen open, but hopefully you found that of interest. And I honestly believe, having a background in industry, that this is so right for so many students, and the feedback we are getting from students and teachers is fantastic. The schools we've tended to work with over the last 4 or 5 years start often with one language, and then they build it up and add another and another, and some schools deliver all 3. Many private schools were delivering it, but now we're getting more state schools, and particularly, of course, because we've got the level 3 with UCAS points. So hopefully you'll be able to get on board with it. It isn't too late to do it this year, but probably you may want to look at it starting in September, so you've plenty of planning time. If you scan the QR code, as I say, we'll send you information and resources that you could use for an open evening. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a lovely Sunday and enjoy the rest of the term. All the best. Thank you very much.